So how do they decide which ones go to jail? Because I'm surprised some of these people are so, like Anthony Weiner, was he just like, okay, well, he's a congressman, who really cares? In the big picture of things, he's a disgusting looking individual. Let's just let him go.
Well, in my opinion, you're a senator. You're connected very big. You get arrested. They have your computer. And they throw you in jail for texting an underage girl, or do you? I haven't seen anything. I'm just talking. Let's talk our experiences in life. This guy's a super powerful dude. Was tapped almost to be one of the people who are going to run for president at some point. He gets busted sex messaging a young girl, and he goes to jail. When we've seen what fucking politicians got away with and not gone to jail, he goes to jail. Does it make you think maybe there was something a little darker going on, and maybe that's what's on that computer? Now, Huma, who is his wife, which is Hillary's thing, there's some darkness with her, too.
Sure.
Now, if I said to you, Trump is an evil fucking scumbag who's fucking corrupt, take money, what would everybody here except for Carl say? What would everybody say?
I'd say
yeah, totally,
probably.
100%, right?
Probably, yeah.
The sound guy's shaking his head because he totally believes that.
Yeah.
Now, if I said Hillary is a corrupt scumbag pedophile who took money and is involved with child trafficking, that's where we get the pushback. Right? Look at the laugh, the uncomfortable laughter. That's where
there's nothing uncomfortable about it. That laughter is not uncomfortable. No, do I think she's corrupt? Sure. She's a politician.
Right.
And she has persisted as long as she has.
Right. So you totally believe the Uranium One deal went down?
Well, not like you believe it did,
right. Well, that's
because
the Steve Bannon Clinton cash thing.
But the thing is, you lose me at pedophilia and all that. Well, that's where you just go into the realm of ridiculousness and I think that's
the highest levels of government in Australia and in England have both been busted for pedophilia. Very high up at both of those governments.
The entire English Parliament, basically.
I almost got kidnapped off the streets in Belgium. I was in Brussels, and a few months later in the newspapers, they had the big expose of all the Belgian politicians who were involved in the underground smuggling, and they had found rooms where these children were kept.
Yep.
There was the investigation.
And it's all about initiation, guys. It's all about... Now, do you want to get into Vegas real quick, Carl?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, what I was going to say is... Well, I have a slightly bigger interest in Texas, but I think I would love to hear.
Comes together.
Well, yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say about Vegas, but at the same time, you were pointing out how these horrible incidents happen that supposedly shock everybody terribly, and then we move on to the next.
They're not even talking
but,
Vegas. The only person talking about it, and he's an idiot. And I'm not a fan of his, but Tucker Carlson, I don't agree with him. I don't like his politics. I don't like his show. But he is the only person talking about it.
Well,
right
what
now.
is he saying about it? If
he's going, why isn't there a bigger investigation? This all doesn't make sense. It's completely ridiculous. Now, everything you start questioning. You're like, this is one guy. He got off all these fucking rounds. He's bringing 60 guns into it. And then you start investigating stuff, man. The guy's moved 28 times in his life in the last 10 years. He's incredibly rich. Nobody knows how he makes his money. He's running up huge tabs. Here's my opinion. He was a gun runner for the deep state. But he was getting out of control. He was fucking losing huge amounts of money at these casinos. He was suing casinos, which is a big no-no. A guy in San Bernardino was recently busted. He had died mysteriously. They went to his house. It was full of guns. Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew anything about him. They couldn't find any kind of fucking... any kind of information on him. That is what gun runners do. They stay off the fucking grid, okay? This is what he was doing. He was using the service elevator. You're like, how does the guy use a service elevator when you realize that the top 5 floors of the Mandalay Bay were owned by the Saudis? And it was actually owned by the guy who just fucking got killed in an assassination of the 11 dudes arrested by the Saudi prince in this big anti-corruption probe, which they're finding out $100 billion over the last decade had been stolen from the fucking king. And that's why they're arresting all these guys. He died, I believe, in a helicopter crash, or he was the guy who died in a shootout. All right?
Okay, okay, one thing that I'm really fascinated by, and after this I'm going to make sure you guys are all chip in on as many as you want questions. But the Texas thing, that struck me as odd right off the bat because I thought it reminded me almost instantly of the Kingsman, the first Kingsman movie. That you have this bizarre. I love the movie.
Murder in the church.
I love that movie, but there was like the one scene in the church was so over the top violent, it was jarring from the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And basically, it just like everything before and after it is much lighter. There's still violence and everything, but that scene is just like, what the hell did I just watch? And then I read there's a site I like called Vigilant Citizen. I don't know if you ever read it, but oh man, it's great.
Have you ever heard the 5G theory?
Well, no, but I just want to say what they analyzed on Vigilant Citizen that the Kingsman, they said this is a movie that was designed to bring out Monarch programming out to the forefront and make it hip to teenagers and things like that because the kid's a teenage age. And basically, those movies really get into the whole thing about the whole brainwashing, breaking down of the mind, turning you into an assassin or being able to be controlled. I mean, look up Monarch programming on Google, things like that, folks. But this movie really is out there with it, and the sequel's even more so.
You want to see the best story about what's really going on? Watch the last season of Homeland. Homeland, the last season of Homeland is exactly everything that goes on with the deep state. They set that kid up, they blow it up, they blame it on jihadists. People start studying what's going on, they find out what's going on, people start getting killed. Deep state tries to take out the president. It's all that I couldn't believe they got away with it.
Well, for people that don't know that might be newer to this, and I only know a little bit about deep state, so I focus on certain other aspects. But what's a concise way of describing what deep state is?
Deep state is a shadow government that is not loyal to the U.S. government. You can find it in England, Israel, I believe France and the United States, and they're a shadow government that is more loyal to I would say, the bankers of the world. The bankers. Now, when you say bankers, a lot of people feel like that's an anti-Semitic thing, and it's not, because you have the Rothschilds who are Jewish, they say, and then you have the Rockefellers who are Protestant. You have the royal family, which is Church of England, which is an offshoot of the Catholic Church. Then you have the Catholic Church, who are Catholics, and then you have the royal family in the House of Saud, which are Muslims. Now, so it's not that whole thing. It's like they wear those religions as masks to walk amongst us. It is the New World Order. When you say the deep state, it's the New World Order in which they all are using for world domination.
Yeah, the term comes from Foreign Policy magazine, which was published by the Committee on Foreign Relations. Originally, it was their way of describing how Turkey worked, because it was all the security establishment, the judges and the police captains were all the same military guys, and regardless of what the so-called democracy did, they ran things, and that was the original deep state.
Their own way, yeah,
that was the original deep state by their own way.
But for the record, bankers is still... textual code for Jews.
I disagree. That's only because nobody wants to talk about that, and nobody wants to go, hey, listen, dude, it's not just bankers. The Rothschilds are humongous. There's a whole theory that the royal family, they're actually the head of the Committee of 13 or the Committee of 300. So, I mean, that was done. We could sit here and discuss the Rothschilds and how they funded the Anti-Defamation League just simply to do that. So if anybody questioned them, they would point them out as anti-Semitic. We can sit here and discuss that all day.
Those crafty Jews.
No, it's not that. My girlfriend's Jewish, man. I've been banging a Jew for 15 years. It's not that at all. But that's what happens when you start talking about that. People want to shut it down, when in truth it's not the real religion that runs everything is dark arts fucking, I don't even want to call it satanic worshipers, because I know Satan worshipers, and they're just people of the earth, if you really want to talk about it. It's really dark arts fucking pedos, dog.
Money.
Darker than Satan.
Just and tens of billions of dollars and stuff.
Trillions of dollars, dude. You look at the Pentagon since 9/11 has lost, not spent, lost $13.5 trillion. Do you think they're just going to leave elections up to hope that all works out, man? If you actually look at 9/11, 5 buildings were hit on 9/11. 3 of them were accounting offices. The Pentagon, that part of the Pentagon they hit, were the accounting office of the Pentagon. The fucking Building 7, that was where the CIA, FBI, and Secret Service had their accounting offices. Building 6, in which nobody talks about, it was completely hollowed off because nobody talks about because there's no video of it happening. That had a group called the El Dorado Task Force, which was a group put together by 55 agencies in the U.S. government meant to look for money laundering, and nobody talked about that. And they fucking hollowed that motherfucker out, fucking 8 floors deep into the ground, and nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, well, one of the famous whistleblowers who's over at Tragedy and Hope, that channel online, he tells a story because he was one of the guys investigating the malfeasance that Rumsfeld announced just before.
The day before.
That's right. The day before when Rumsfeld announced that huge shortfall in defense spending. And then, then the guys who were all asking questions about it were invited to a meeting at the World Trade Center that very day.
And let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If you listen to the exact words of Donald Rumsfeld. His exact words were, I want to attack the Pentagon and I want to free it. And if you look at what happened on 9/11, they hit it, and now we're in every country. We have literally 7 wars going on. 2 of them were approved by Congress. It's just, it is creepy as shit. Now, as much as everybody hates Louis C.K., the funniest moment in radio, literally the funniest moment in radio, is when they interviewed Donald Rumsfeld and Louis C.K. was like, are you a lizard person? It's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
He got to confront Rumsfeld?
On the radio, he asked him if he's a lizard person, and Rumsfeld
say?
Would not answer it.
What?
It's the funniest thing you'll ever hear.
Can
alone, you should be allowed back.
Yeah, that's a podcast clip.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got 5 minutes. Unless I don't want to be dominating this over too much, but
I
but
talk
the
too
lizard,
much, man.
No,
I
but the
talk.
lizard. Well, yeah, but watch your breaks later. The lizard people. Let's talk about that. Like the idea, basically, I don't know if it came from David Icke, but look up a guy named David Icke, I-C-K-E. He's a former British soccer star, and then he became an announcer on TV, and then he suddenly had this weird supposed meltdown, and he started saying that all this stuff about the creation of Washington, D.C. and other world capitals have all sort of like weird grid layouts and things like that, and that the real powers behind the world are actually a race of super evolved lizard people, like the Bushes are lizard people, and he's obsessed with this. So, where does this come in your eyes? How do you feel about it?
And make it quick, because the FBI is probably on their way up.
Okay,
that's what I'm very.
We talk about this all the time on my show,
so it's easy to escape through the window out the back.
We talk about this on my show all the time. There's about 1,000 people, probably 5,000 people before me that have to be knocked off. If I have a couple friends in the conspiracy world that suddenly die, I will end my show.
Don't be modest.
So let me just say
You're
that.
being modest.
Even if you got good ratings? Come on.
So, do you know that there's 3 areas in this world that are part of no country? And I'm not talking Antarctica, because Antarctica is its own country, okay? But I'm talking 3 areas that are part of no country. They pay no law, they pay no taxes, they follow no laws, and they're their own sovereigns. Do you know where they are?
Vatican City, Washington,
Vatican's
D.C.,
one.
Washington.
The UN. I'll give you UN on that
That's
one.
its own country.
Do you know where the other one is?
Luxembourg?
No, it's called the City of London, and it's in the right in the middle of London, and is not part of England or the UK. It's its own thing. Now, what does each one of those represent? The UN, the Vatican, and City of London. The UN is military, the Vatican is religion, and the City of London is banking. That's where all the banking headquarters are. Okay, that's where it all goes down. And they adhere to nobody. They follow no fucking laws. Okay. In terms of the lizard people, let's look at religion. How many times you hear about a hell with demons in it and blah blah blah? And if you go there, you'll be eaten. Okay. What do lizard people look a lot like? Fucking demons, okay? The royal family, they believe that why have royals always inbred? Because there's this belief that they have fucking this fucking lizard blood, and they don't want to interact with the fucking cattle. Now, am I going to be able to prove it? David Icke's probably better at me, but there's just over time this discussion of lizards and reptilians who rule the overlord.
George W. Bush is proof enough for me.
I gotta say,
I would say the cancellation of the Series V back in the 80s,
yes.
and then when they tried to bring it back again, that's the proof to me.